In beer, man, anywhere from the cellarman, the janitor, all the way up to the GM of the tasting room, it's like if I trip, you fall kind of thing. It's like it is all so sensitive to each other cross departmentally that you always have to make your most valiant effort to be working hard for your coworkers, for the people on your team, because it really is like if I don't do my job, they get impacted, and if they get impacted, and it's just the trickle effect. And in beer, in the beer world, it's so from grain to glass that it's kind of hard to avoid, and you don't want to learn it the hard way.
You are listening to the Capital Craft Podcast, brought to you by the San Diego Brewers Guild. I am your host, Erik Fowler.
My name is Jeff Fox with Beer Media Co.
Hey folks, this is Jeff Lozano coming at you from Ballast Point Brewing Company, or at least a representative of it.
And the Brewers Guild.
And the Brewers Guild now, right?
Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's actually a pretty cool little evolution in my career in beer, if you will, because from the outside in, I've always liked what the Guild's done. I've always obviously loved what the Guild stands for, and hey, whatever I'm doing out there was worthy enough to get a little bit of a nod from the Guild. So I'm glad to be part of it, and I'm excited just to see what we can do, man. Honestly.
Yeah, we're pretty stoked, and it's just the tip of the iceberg right now, I think. And with your enthusiasm, experience, and activeness in the community, I think you're going to bring a lot to the yeah. It's called tasting. It's classy.
Mm-hmm. Participation, yes.
No, man, I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
Nice for those who don't know you, though, you're sitting in on a 2024 and 2025 board term, and we're stoked to have you through the next year and really hit the ground running on a couple initiatives that the Guild's working on. But tell listeners a little bit about your background and what brought you to even be sitting in front of us today.
Well, I actually didn't even start a career in beer. It was just something that was a little bit spontaneous. So I moved to San Diego to study. I was actually a nurse, graduated from nursing school. And before I kind of really went into that world, I kind of had to take a step back and do a self-analytical assessment about what the career trajectory was going to eventually
stability,
become.
Always a need for it. You just want to give all that up.
Dude, I was a male bilingual nurse, right? And at the time, they were in high demand.
Yeah,
and I knew the starting salary, dude. So here's the thing. The long and short of it is like, look, I'm going to get on this trajectory, and there's only going to be room to move up, in my estimation, and it's more money, and that lifestyle is going to need to be supported by that salary, blah, blah, blah. So the last thing that I wanted, I had no family at the time. I wasn't married. I had no kids. So I was like, you know what? If I'm going to go out on a limb and do something that I consider fun and something that's going to maybe stoke some interest or scratch an itch, maybe. I didn't want to have like this midlife crisis and have to go to my family now of 3 kids and a wife, go like, hey, daddy wants to pursue his dream of working at a brewery and start at the bottom and not be able to support them and stuff like that. So I just decided to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And it just so happens that it kind of worked out, and I just really haven't looked back, man. So I started with Ballast Point back in 2012. Dude, I sent resumes to every brewery that you can imagine. Rosie Pronko, if you're listening, from Stone back in the day, she must have rejected me like 1,000 times.
Yeah, I applied to Stone, I think 9 times before getting hired.
Bro,
that was like 20.
Lucky you.
2014, yeah.
You beat me out probably. It was like between ours and then we're going to go with Erik. But you know what? 2012, I applied to Ballast Point Brewing Company because I was selling their beer at the restaurant that I was working at, going through nursing school. So I wasn't a big fishing guy. So the brand never really resonated to me, but I love the beer, and so I sold it a lot. And then finally comes to 2012 where I apply, and the president at the time is the only guy that got back to me, dude. I had sent my resume to everybody on the org chart, and the guy that got back to me was like the main dude. And he goes, hey, we have a position opening. It's a maintenance facility guy or whatever. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, important. It's a janitor. I was a janitor, and I was a weekend janitor at that weekend graveyard. So I'd clock in at 9 p.m. on a Friday, and then I'd clock out like at 6 a.m. on that Monday or something like that. And then the rest is history, man. I hit every tier, every ladder. It was the right place, right time, right opportunity, but right attitude kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you and me both experienced the industry of getting in at that right time where we saw a lot of growth.
Yeah, dude.
Do you think that's still the case for somebody trying to get into the industry? And, what can we do better to kind of encourage and stoke that, right? Something we've been pushing with the Guild a lot the last couple of years is like getting new faces and new blood, new ideas.
Yeah.
Like we want to look around and see a bunch of people we've never seen before at meetings, at events, at festivals. And it's been difficult and we need to keep working on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are burnt out. I think because the industry has plateaued or maybe like settled in a weird way where I think that it was in a boom back when we were first starting, right? And everybody was opening up breweries and successful breweries selling for billions of dollars. We're kind of like getting people excited about getting into that industry. And I think what happened was that there was a big spill in and then just a self-correction that's just a natural thing. Things are going to kind of like set themselves right. And then you can't just be sustainable by having that many, breweries trying to be the top dogs and bleed into the top tier. So I think we've done a good job now, or the industry has self-corrected itself, and like everything's just kind of like settled back down to the guys that are around for a reason. They have a lot to teach some of the newer brewers that are coming onto the scene to say, all right, well, don't shoot for the moon or don't try to do that because it's not really attainable anymore. Let's just try to be happy and work in this a little bit more of a smaller province and try to be the best instead of trying to, bring in all these investors and try to make $200 $200 million off your investment. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think that's another thing is like that sustainable growth model rather than the, explosive, like frenzy. Yeah, definitely.
And there was a lot of time like where upward mobility was a lot more common. There was a lot more growth because facilities were opening up, expansion. So people were growing. I mean, like I was a beneficiary of that boom, right? Where I became the brewer, at that point, and hitting everything, there was upward mobility. I don't think that exists as easily anymore. I think that with the city becoming as expensive as it is and just the industry, just playing the game of catch up, it's hard, bro. It's hard. You got people leaving because they need to make ends meet somewhere else. That's where you'll get a little bit of some upward mobility from the bottom org, right? But from a brewery that's kind of like has all its chess pieces assembled, right? It's really hard. And it's few and far between that you get like all these guys entering at the bottom rung, and then in a year they've grown.
Yeah, I think opportunities there for anybody that's willing to put in the work. I agree that it's a lot harder than it's ever been over the last
maybe
decade
not
or
one
so.
year anymore.
But what we're not seeing as much of anecdotally from my experience is we're seeing a lot less people jump around from brewery to brewery, and a lot of that opportunity just in any industry unfortunately comes from learning a little bit here for 18 24 months, jumping to another brewery and doing the same. And we're seeing a lot less of that, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But I agree that kind of going back to the roots, and it's cool to hear your experience, an entry-level job and the head of a really large nationally or regionally known brewery at the time, being the one to outreach for you, because that's really important when it comes to developing culture, right? And setting those standards. If that person cares so much about bringing that entry-level position in, it's going to set the tone for everybody else.
You said the most important word at least in my world, and it's culture.
Beer?
Yeah, it's culture. Culture, man. Culture is so critical, and I think it's been diluted in its understanding from higher tiers, right? Like C-suite guys and stuff like that they don't understand the importance of what it means for their team to really feel like they're a part of something congruent, and that they feel like they're part of an ecosystem. And I've said this before on other shows, and it still holds true. It's like in beer, man, anywhere from the cellarman, the janitor, all the way up to the GM of the tasting room. It's like if I trip, you fall kind of thing. It's like it is all so sensitive to each other cross departmentally that you always have to make your most valiant effort to be working hard for your coworkers, for the people on your team, because it really is like if I don't do my job, they get impacted, and if they get impacted, and it's just the trickle effect. And in beer, in the beer world, it's so from grain to glass that it's kind of hard to avoid, and you don't want to learn it the hard way. It's you building that culture will allow your team to produce what's even more important than good beer, which is just a healthy environment, a healthy work environment.
Yeah. An important step for the guild moving forward is going to be recontributing to that culture and setting the standard for that. There is a lot of pride in this industry, and we need to really keep instilling that as an industry leading organization to give people really clear reasons on what to be proud of and how to be shouting it from the rooftop and saying the same thing.
Dude, exactly, brother. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. And that's what excites me about guild incentives right now, because that's what you guys are concentrating on, guys and gals. You're concentrating on kind of rejuvenating that passion that it's already lies within them. That's why they're in the industry. But it's been like, there hasn't been a lot of excuses, let's say, to go out there and be your own cheerleader and attend the pep rally. And I think that all starts with, sometimes you need to be reminded, hey man, look, you're in an awesome city doing an awesome job creating the best beer that has probably ever been made, right? Mm-hmm. And you should be excited about that. And when I always said this, was like, dude, I would get my paycheck and I would add like 2 to 3 imaginary zeros on it. Those two imaginary zeros were what I'm being compensated by doing what I love. It's unquantifiable. I was just happy where I was in a city that I wanted to be in, around a bunch of folks that like the same thing that I like, which is great beer, producing great beer. And really, dude, the mission was, can the brewers walk into spots and be the new rock stars in this town? You know what I mean? Like, can they be like, oh dang, no, there's Erik, dude, from the Guild, what's up? And like some people that goes far, especially like when you're trying to figure out if what you're doing matters.
This episode of the Capital of Craft podcast is brought to you by Proper Pack. Looking for a way to stand out? Want to be environmentally responsible and financially prudent? Our new guild members have you covered. Proper Pack provides eco-friendly paper can carriers that are curbside recyclable, fully customizable, and affordable. Learn more and request free samples at www.theproperpack.com or email at info@theproperpack.com, because great beer deserves great packaging.
Yeah, it needs to stay contagious.
Contagious.
Yeah.
Exactly, brother.
That's a good word.
I like it.
I know. I come from a marketing background, so I'm loving all this.
Yeah. Well, marketing's a big part of it, man. And it's you don't want your delicious beer being made by unhappy brewers and sulky cellarmen. It's like you want them to be like when you go into a brewery and you go like, oh yeah, the brewer's sitting right over there, and you go and he's at the bar. He hasn't gone home. He hasn't kicked off his boots to go crack open a bottle of Jack Daniels, which I'm sure is not the worst move. He's still there. He's like still at the bar. He goes, yeah, go talk to me. He loves talking to people. If you have any questions about your beer.
Yeah.
From the consumer standpoint, for the customer experience, you're like, whoa, that's him? Like, I love, this is my favorite brewery, this is my favorite beer. That's the dude that makes it, and he's sitting here. Go to the places where the brewers still hang out, and you'll find yourself a great beer and brewery, And
I think there's probably some piece that if you're having a good time, you're still excited about it, you're probably using a lot more creativity, you're maybe experimenting a little bit more, you're having fun with it. Like, that's where you're going to get something that's different, right? And
where do you think the best ideas come from? There's like 3 IPAs deep around all your buddies. That's where the great ideas come from. A lot of them not so great, but hey, there's some gold in there.
Yeah, I think humanizing what we do is really important because it's an artisan product, right? It's not just something with a blank label on the shelf. And some of the industry is moving towards that a little bit more, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out long term. But I think the idea of the beer celebrity also burnt our industry a little bit, and people got fed up with it. So how do we really showcase everybody, like you said, the entry level position to the founder from 25 years ago? How do we celebrate them all in the same way so that people feel that connection, right?
Well, you're starting to do it. You specifically are starting to do it. The show is basically running on that philosophy, right? It's like, I want to bring in people in the industry and give them an opportunity to tell their story and put a camera on their face and spread it virally through Instagram or all the social platforms. And that person goes like, oh, now I'm kind of amped. this is awesome. Really, nobody really asked me what I do, or you know what? Nobody's ever asked me that question, and I'm happy to share it because it's been something that I've been wanting to share. They leave this studio going, hey man, I can't wait till you release it. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to share it. Yeah, I can't wait to show my friends, my family, my wife, my husband. Like, these are all great things that's the antidote. The antidote is how do you get people to remember why they wanted to do this in the first place? I get it. Some people need to put bread on the table. Some people are just there because they need to make a buck. Some people are there because they hope that this could be what their life's work is all about. Mm-hmm. And both can end there, right? But it's our responsibility, especially like the Guild, making sure that we're the amplification tool. And the people behind the scenes, which they typically like to be, by the way, they like to be behind the scenes. Well, if you're not going to tell your own story, let us tell it for you. Mm-hmm. And get you to where you need to be in this industry, which is known and celebrated.
Yeah. Jeff, you mentioned marketing and, looking at marketing, branding, really the key tool to implement, a successful program on marketing what San Diego beer is, because it's so all encompassing, really comes down to like a clear way of communicating, right? Yeah. And meeting people where they're at. And that's what craft beer, to me personally, lost a little bit of over the years, is we stopped meeting people where they're at. We started talking down to them, which, I guess has always been kind of the case, especially the early Stone days, Yeah. But as a whole, we need to constantly remind ourselves that we need to meet people where they're at. We need to see what they're interested in and cater to that. Not be disingenuous in who we are as a brand or an industry, but adapt and flow with what people are looking for and what experiences they're looking for and what ways of connecting they're looking for. It might be via Spotify or Amazon Music, or it could be a reel on Instagram watching what we're talking about now. But one of our goals is to really amplify and diversify our ways of communicating so that we can meet the consumer and our breweries where they're at.
I agree.
It's funny, you're telling your customer, like, oh, you don't actually like hazy IPAs, you actually like old English ales and some pretentious,
Well, it goes back to the bar. Look, like the bar.
You don't like that.
I won't mention the name of the bar, but if you're listening, you probably already know which one I'm talking about. They just had a history of being pretentious, and it wasn't like in the cool kids club way anymore, where it might have started that way. It just became literally like I think what they were doing was ostracizing a lot of people because they didn't know what they should have known, right? You'd go in there and they would only have the beer name and the ABV on, and
it would drive me nuts.
Hey man, look,
even somebody who's really educated, professionally educated in beer and beer styles and trending breweries, I still wouldn't know what the hell it is half the time.
That's the most horrible game plan for a tasting room. That's the best game plan if you want to go and have yourself some, secret society meeting and everyone's going to bring some stuff and, hey man, if you know kind of deal. That's fine. There's fun in that. I think there's a place for that too. But like you said it right now, Erik, it's like beer is for everybody, and we do need to meet people where they're at, and beer, luckily enough, can meet everybody wherever they're at. It's you can shave off the foam head with a sword with some beers, but you can also just crack one and shotgun it, and it's supposed to be like, from a social ladder standpoint, it's supposed to be a beverage for everybody. Everybody should just be able to grab beer. Everybody should be able to just walk into a brewery or a tasting room or a craft beer bar, bottle shop, and not feel like they're nervous because they might ask a stupid question and there's not going to be anybody there to help guide them the right way. I think that we were close to getting fully hijacked by what you were saying in the early days, because I think that was the only remedy in order for it to really gain notoriety and really stand on top of the hill that we all want it to stand on. It overshot a little bit into this whole pretentiousness and stuff, and it was kind of like, it was kind of the maneuver like, we'll tell you what's good, you don't tell us what's good. Yeah. And now I feel like we're coming back to hey guys, remember, we want everybody to just enjoy this ride.
I think that's spot on. And we're also very insulated with, say we go to a beer event and I see you, Jeff, and I haven't seen you in 2 months. Who am I going to hang out with and talk to the whole time? Right? We need to be better at communicating and having conversations with people outside of our normal groups. And the holidays are coming up, and this should air right before Thanksgiving, most likely.
Sweet.
And that's a perfect time to, when you go to that Thanksgiving and there's that cooler out on the porch and everybody's, cracking a beer, see what's in there, see what people pick up, this close family, but think about the decisions they're making and why they're making them, and use them. Ask them questions. Don't tell them why craft beer is so great and why they should be drinking that. Right. Ask them why they're drinking the one they're drinking, when the last time they had an independently owned local beer, why they haven't. Make it about them. Get to the bottom of it and their logic and emotion behind it. And some of my greatest beer memories are exactly that. I think it was Christmas Eve. I would always spend with family, and they would always have a 12-pack of Sam Adams, Winter Bock or Chocolate Bock and Old Fezziwig and all that. And it would be, San Diego cold, so it's like 60, but you're sitting out there and cracking Old Fezziwig, and it's just like one of those beer core memories that I always have. But it's, it's people that aren't really, I wouldn't say they're craft aficionados, but they still made that choice when they went to the store. They picked a craft beer, and let's use the people around us that maybe aren't in the industry as examples of how people are consuming and why they're making those decisions.
I love it. I agree. I think, and I still agree that this is what beer does. It was supposed to be a binder. It's always supposed to be like, hey, I need to talk to you, man. Let's go grab a pint. Why? Why are we going to go grab a pint? Well, because it's going to be something that I want to facilitate our conversation, or beer has always been, this is the way I've always said it. It's always like, make something good better, make an environment more enhanced and stuff like that. And so like we talk about coolers full of macro beer and a sprinkling of craft beer. Like I like that because it's the environment and the experience that will shine light on that beer. Like how many times have you gone into a brewery? I know I have. I've gone into breweries, and the beer that I'm drinking is not even it's probably not something that I'd regularly drink or go out to buy, but because I had a great time with you guys that day. I was with Erik, dude, we were hanging out, and I just remember that whatever experience I just had enhanced this beer, and now I like this beer. It's not the beer that I liked, it's the beer here that I liked, or the beer with this person that I liked, or that enhanced it. Now I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna go visit them, or they're one of my favorite breweries now because I had one great experience with them. And that's why like these tasting rooms and breweries, it's so important to give people that welcoming and non-pretentious experience, because I'm not kidding. One great experience can make a lifer. You know what I mean? That could bring them back and back again. And he remembered my name. I'm gonna go and grab my family, or I got a brother that's in from out of town. We're gonna go to that brewery because when I walk in, I know that they remember my name, and that looks really cool. My brother's gonna go like, "Oh man, that was cool." And they're like, "Yeah, dude." And it's there's pride, but there's just so much more. You know what I mean?
There was a word in there that I kept hearing, and it's like Are we actually selling beer, or are we selling an experience, right? And I think that's really what that's an interesting way to look at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, a great experience can make a half-ass beer better and great. A half-ass beer can probably derail your experience. Yeah. So I'm not saying there's been this debate that's like, or for a long time it's like, if you brew it, they will come kind of deal. Yeah, they'll come, but they might not come back. And they'll come back for a good pint that wasn't great, but they had a great time in there and time again. And with feedback, and if you're paying attention, you will be better. You will get better. But if you're not paying attention to your quality or your QC standards, and you're just trying to get by because you have a cool brand and you think that people are just going to like you for your name, well, it's going to be a very short ride in this town at least. And so I'm glad that we're all kind of like figuring it out,
Yeah. So where are you excited in like the next 12 months for beer to go, or any shifts that you see, any specific events like locally? What are you looking for over the next year in terms of like boostering this community? I
think you hit it on the head a little while ago with that little story about being at a beer fest, or I see you, and there should be no reason why you don't have somebody to go talk to at any given point at any beer festival here in town. I think that one of the things that I'm this is something, it's almost like a self-serving thing. I just like meeting people in our industry, and I like making friends, and I like being on first name basis with everybody. And I just know the feeling of being able to walk into a spot and go like, hey, and I know somebody, and that feeling of like having friends and having a group and having like this industry is so tightly knit, but sometimes it can feel very distant because, you know, there's not a lot of, there's plenty of opportunities, but not a lot of incentives to come together and meet each other, right? And become friends. I'm excited to facilitate that and facilitate breweries talking to each other and really collaborating and collaborating more often, but collaborating, like how do we take collaborations, for instance, to the next level? Right? How do we take it that it was fun and we got the picture and somebody grained out and that's fun. But okay, so what are collaborations actually supposed to do when it comes to the network that we're building here, the web that we're building here in San Diego? And then how can we make that, you know, how can we up the ante? I think the Guild's already been doing a good job, you know, trailblazing with the capital of craft and stuff like that. Like that's the next level. Okay, so what's the next level? I just want this community of beer makers and beer fans and everybody in between, honestly, to just kind of be reminded that San Diego is the best. San Diego is the best place for craft beer. And the onus is on us to really amplify that message and to prove it. And not just say it, but prove it. And I think that I'm excited to get people to be a lot more, I don't know if cohesive is the right word, but like, I just want everybody to feel like they're in the same room talking to each other in the same vein of this whole thing. And then when somebody, you know, catches fire, catches lightning in a bottle, everybody can kind of come up with it. You know what I mean? And everybody kind of benefits from it. And I don't know, man, it's like back in the olden days of craft beer where, you know, I would come out and I got the stone guys at the bar. We just gave yeast to the guys over there too, and they're all over here supporting our brewery. And you know what I'm gonna do after my shift? I'm gonna go to their brewery and I'm gonna support their brewery. And then just everybody was about it. Everybody was about each other. And I think we can get back to the point where everybody is literally just doing it for the city, but also doing it for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, we continue to preach ownership, right? Like individual ownership and ownership of that pride. And we can, you know, get everybody to encourage them. But that spark needs to come internally a lot of times.
Yeah, dude.
And
so we come in, baby.
Yeah. And we got to hold people accountable for that too. You know, like it's okay to call each other out as an industry on those types of things and really push everybody to the next level. Because as soon as we lose that chip on our shoulder, it's really hard to get back. And there's so many other good beer cities and regions, and we need that chip, and we need that fire, and we need to, you know, keep pushing ourselves for it.
Well said, dude. Look, man, I've been on a roller coaster. I've been with Ballast Point, and in this town, it's been quite the roller coaster, right? And so one of the nice, I'll just leave it at this, but one of the nice like pint half full kind of vantage points that I was able to adopt was, you know, we've been at the Ballast Point was at the culturally, I guess, at the highest of the highs, and then it kind of went into this weird space of nobody kind of knew what we were doing and what the brand stood for. And now we're doing our part internally to come back and all, you know, remind people that, guys, we're just a bunch of people just trying to make great beer, and that's ultimately what the end goal is. And so I guess bringing that sort of experience also into the Guild could be, you know, like beneficial, because dude, I've been through it all, dude. I've had to go out there and talk on a lot of these, you know, peaks and valleys, and it's been difficult, man. It's been difficult, but I've found a way to do it. And my secret weapon has always been staying true to why I'm in this industry, and hopefully, you know, injecting some enthusiasm into every component. And that's kind of what makes it fun for me. And if it rubs off on everybody, then it makes it fun for them too, dude.
Yeah. Well, cheers, man. It's been a pleasure having you on here.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
We're excited to, where can everybody find you or learn more about what you got going on?
If you are ever in a Ballast Point Brewing tasting room and you see me, honestly, just tap me on the shoulder, whether, hey, I heard you on the Capital Craft podcast, or I followed you on Instagram at Jeff Lozano at Instagram, or, you know, any place that you've actually seen me, please do not hesitate. Tap me on the shoulder. You know, we can have a little chit chat, and if I have some free time, I'll buy you around. You know, it's like, I love that. That's my favorite part of this industry, is just meeting people, dude.
All awesome.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for listening to the Capital of Craft podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe, and you can follow us on Instagram at SD Brewers, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.